They said it was impossible. No army could cross the towering Alps with war elephants and still live to fight. Yet one man looked at those frozen mountains and saw a path to glory. His name was Hannibal Barca, and he swore to make Rome tremble. From childhood, he carried a promise of vengeance against the most powerful republic in the world. Rome believed it was untouchable. Hannibal intended to prove them wrong. But this was not just a war of armies. It was a war of endurance, strategy, and sheer willpower. Snowstorms, betrayal, starvation, and relentless enemies stood in his way, and that was only the beginning. What followed would become one of the most daring military campaigns in history. Entire Roman legions would fall before him. Cities would panic at the mere rumor of his approach. Yet even at the height of his triumph, danger closed in from all sides. How did a general from Carthage bring Rome to its knees? And why, after coming so close to victory, did he never conquer it? To answer that, we must return to the moment his hatred for Rome was first born. To understand Hannibal's mission, we must look at the world he was born into. Carthage and Rome were rising powers, locked in a bitter struggle for dominance. The First Punic War had already scarred both sides, leaving Carthage humiliated and stripped of key territories. Rome grew stronger with each victory, confident in its destiny to rule the Mediterranean. Hannibal was the son of Hamilcar Barca, a brilliant Carthaginian commander. As a boy, he stood beside his father before a sacred altar and swore eternal hostility toward Rome. It was not a simple oath of anger, it was a vow that would shape his entire life. Carthage rebuilt its strength in Iberia, rich with silver mines and new recruits. Hannibal grew up among soldiers, learning tactics, languages, and the art of leadership. He rode horses before he was 10 and commanded men while still young. His soldiers admired his courage, but they also feared his intensity. When Hamilcar died, Hannibal eventually took command in Spain. Rome watched him carefully, suspicious of his growing power. Tension escalated over the city of Saguntum, a Roman ally deep in Iberian territory. When Hannibal attacked and captured it, he knew what would follow. Rome declared war. The Second Punic War had begun. Hannibal faced a brutal choice: defend Carthage from invasion or strike Rome where it felt safest. He chose the unthinkable. Instead of waiting, he would carry the war across mountains, rivers, and hostile lands directly into Italy. No one expected the route he would take. Even his enemies dismissed it as madness. But Hannibal was not chasing safety. He was chasing shock, fear, and strategic surprise. And the journey ahead would test every ounce of his resolve. Hannibal began his march with tens of thousands of soldiers, cavalry, and towering war elephants. He crossed the Ebro River and pushed through hostile tribes in Gaul. Each mile cost him men, supplies, and precious time. But turning back was never an option. Then came the Alps. Snow blinded his troops. Ice shattered under their feet. Men slipped into ravines and vanished without a sound. Even the elephants struggled on narrow mountain paths. Many believed this was the end, but Hannibal refused to break. He rode alongside his freezing soldiers, sharing their hunger and exhaustion. He pointed toward the distant plains of Italy and promised glory beyond the mountains. Somehow, against all logic, they descended into Roman territory. Rome was stunned. No one expected an enemy army to appear from the north. Panic spread through the Senate. Legions were rushed to confront him, confident they could crush this exhausted invader. They were wrong. At the Battle of Trebia, Hannibal lured Roman forces into a deadly trap. Hidden troops struck from the flanks as icy waters drained Roman strength. Thousands fell. Rome tasted fear. But that was not the worst. At Lake Trasimene, he ambushed an entire Roman army in thick morning fog. Soldiers died without even seeing their attacker. It was one of the largest ambushes in history. Still, Hannibal was not finished. At Cannae, he faced a Roman force nearly twice his size. The Romans believed numbers guaranteed victory. Hannibal encircled them in a masterpiece of strategy. By the end of the day, tens of thousands of Roman soldiers lay dead. Rome had never suffered such humiliation. Allies began to question their loyalty. The Republic stood shaken to its core. Yet even after these stunning victories, Hannibal did not march on the city itself, and that decision would haunt the rest of his life.
After Cannae, Rome was bleeding. Its greatest armies were gone. Its allies were wavering. The road to the city seemed open. Many expected Hannibal to march straight on Rome and end the war in a single blow. But he did not move. Why? That question has echoed through history for centuries. Some say he lacked siege equipment. Others claim his army was too exhausted. And some whisper that he hesitated at the very edge of destiny. Instead of attacking the city, Hannibal waited. He hoped Rome's allies would abandon the Republic. He believed the Italian states would see Rome's weakness and switch sides. A few did, but not enough. Rome responded in a way no one expected. Rather than face Hannibal directly, they changed their strategy. Under the leadership of Quintus Fabius Maximus, they avoided open battle. They shadowed Hannibal, cut off his supplies, and refused to fight on his terms. It was a war of patience now, a war of nerves. Hannibal marched across Italy for years, undefeated in battle, yet unable to deliver the final strike. His army grew smaller. Reinforcements from Carthage were delayed or denied. Political divisions back home weakened his position. And then, the tide quietly began to turn. A young Roman commander named Publius Cornelius Scipio was rising in Spain. While Hannibal dominated Italy, Scipio dismantled Carthaginian power overseas. City by city, he stripped Hannibal of support and resources. It was a slow, deliberate counterattack. Hannibal watched as his foundation crumbled. Then came the unthinkable. Scipio carried the war to Africa itself. Carthage, the city Hannibal swore to protect, was now threatened. The invader became the defender. Hannibal was recalled home after more than 15 years in Italy. He returned not as a conqueror, but as a last hope. And soon, the two greatest military minds of their age would finally meet face to face. The year was 202 BCE. The plains of Zama stretched wide beneath the African sun. Hannibal stood across from the one man who had studied his every move, Scipio. This time there would be no surprise attack, no mountain crossing, no hidden ambush. The Battle of Zama was different from Cannae. Scipio had learned from Hannibal's tactics. He arranged his legions in flexible columns, leaving lanes for the charging elephants to pass through. When the beasts thundered forward, Roman horns blared, and the formation held. Hannibal's cavalry, once his greatest strength, was weaker now. Many of his veteran troops were gone, replaced by less experienced soldiers. For the first time in his career, he faced an enemy who understood him completely. The psychological edge he once held had vanished. The fighting was brutal and relentless. Steel clashed under the scorching heat. Dust filled the air as lines collided again and again. But slowly the momentum shifted. Scipio's cavalry returned to the battlefield at the perfect moment. They struck Hannibal's rear just as the infantry struggled at the center. The encirclement Hannibal once used so brilliantly at Cannae was now turned against him. Carthage fell silent. Hannibal had lost. The consequences were devastating. Carthage was forced to surrender its fleet, pay massive war reparations, and abandon its empire. Rome emerged as the dominant power of the Western Mediterranean. The balance of power had permanently shifted. Yet Hannibal was not executed or imprisoned. Instead, he returned to Carthage and served as a political leader. He reformed finances and attempted to strengthen the state peacefully. But Rome never stopped fearing him. Eventually, Roman pressure forced him into exile. He wandered from court to court, advising foreign kings against Rome. Even without an army, his name alone unsettled the Republic. In the end, cornered and unwilling to be captured, Hannibal chose his own fate. He took poison rather than allow Rome the satisfaction of parading him in chains. Even in defeat, he denied them that victory. Rome won the war, but Hannibal forced the Republic to evolve, to adapt, and to become stronger. His genius reshaped Roman military strategy forever, and his shadow would linger over Rome long after his death. Hannibal Barca never saw Rome burn. He never marched through its gates in triumph. Yet for more than a decade, he made the greatest republic on earth tremble. Even in defeat, his name echoed through Roman households as a warning to children. Hannibal is at the gates. He was not just a general, he was a symbol of boldness beyond reason. A man who crossed the Alps with elephants because others believed it was impossible. A commander who shattered armies twice his size and forced Rome to reinvent its way of fighting wars. But here is the haunting question. What if he had marched on Rome after Cannae? Would history remember him as the conqueror of an empire instead of his greatest enemy? Or was his hesitation the price of facing a civilization that refused to break? Rome survived him, and because it survived, it rose to build an empire that shaped the modern world. Yet that empire was forged in fear of one brilliant strategist from Carthage. Perhaps that is Hannibal's true legacy. Not that he destroyed Rome, but that he transformed it. His victories exposed its weaknesses. His pressure forced its resilience. And in doing so, he changed the course of history forever. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to subscribe to History Hub for more cinematic stories.